What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 659 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Callum Wiggins.
No, I wasn't here last week, but I'm here this week.
I'm barely here at this point anymore either. Should probably switch that up and just be like your host for now, temporarily. How you doing, Callum? You had a little vacation there? Feeling rest up?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk some wrestling after my own rest away from wrestling. So
wrestling away.
Yeah, so I'm happy to step back into the breach and talk through some of these topics.
We're happy to have everybody that's listening as well. Thank you for joining us, everybody, for this episode. We, of course, want to know always what you have to say about all these topics, too. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube, or if you're listening elsewhere, there are a million different ways. Well, maybe not a million. Maybe there's more like 12 different ways for you to voice your opinions and for us to see what it is. You know, you could always send tweets at different accounts like my own, Tony Mango, or Smark Out Moment, or A Mango Tree. You could go, of course, to smarkoutmoment.com, where we have this page up for this episode, or elsewhere, you know, any other kind of comments, I'll get those out there. You have the Discord server that is up there on the link that you can see up on your screen right now, or the sidebar of smarkoutmoment.com. And naturally, there's Facebook. There is, all sorts of different things that are out there. If you are on YouTube, though, make sure that you hit the like button on this video. It helps us out quite a bit to make sure that we get boosted on the YouTube algorithm that completely ignores us most of the time. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Ring that notification bell as well for those live episodes that we do, which more than likely the next one of them is going to be SummerSlam pay-per-view point post show coming up on the 31st. No, it's the 31st. That's the end of the month. Looking at a different thing on my calendar right now. On August 3rd, maybe we'll do something in the meantime. I don't know. Have no plans. This week, of course, no main event because I haven't been figuring out plans because everything's been the way that it's been. So, maybe we do something sporadically and then you end up getting that alert and you just go, oh my God, they're live right now. You never really know. But if you are still, clicking around on those things on YouTube, make sure you click the thanks button too. And make sure you also click the join button. We'll give you access to the same stuff as the Patreon, like the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier. $1 a month is something that greatly helps out too, especially the more people that do it. You know, it's the typical rule of thumb. If everybody puts on a little bit of effort, then nobody has to put in a lot of effort. And keep that in mind when it comes to also Redbubble and TeePublic. Thank you to whoever was that bought the Urge to Merge shirt yesterday, by the way. I don't know. I don't get the information of who buys these things. So if it's you, thank you for picking that up. Let me know what you think. I think it was on TeePublic. Might have been on Redbubble. I don't remember for sure. But, all that stuff comes back to A Mango Tree, helps fund Smark Out Moment continuing and Fanboys Anonymous continuing. So, thank you for all your support. And let's start getting the ball rolling with these hot tags. We have a few to talk about here. Some of them on the TV side of things to recap and stuff. Our main one's probably going to be TNA Slammiversary predictions, despite how I don't even really know exactly what the card is, but I'll be looking that up on here. We've got, it sounds so like I'm checked out, and that's because I am. But we have some interesting things going on lately in wrestling. I don't want to make it seem like that's not the case. There's actually been a lot of things fun happening, but this week it's been kind of a slow week for news topics and stuff. So that's why there's no bombastic, like, wow, it's crazy debut or this unfortunate injury or whatever like that. One thing I'll get out of the way here, because this is just kind of on the low end and speculative, and it kind of seems like it just points in one direction, and that's the end of the story, is that the Tonga twins were apparently sighted at the WWE Performance Center. Now, I'm not too familiar with the Tonga twins. I actually only am aware of them recently from them leaving WoW and complaining about how things had gone down there. Are you at all familiar with the Tonga twins?
I haven't watched any of their stuff, so I can't say I'm familiar from that respect. I've heard the names every now and again, probably from either you or Rob mentioning them, but yeah, so they're not on my radar.
So they are, if it's not obvious in the name, two twins that are Tongan. And, they're in the women's division instead of it being part of like the whole Hikuleo and Tongaloa and Tamatanga side of the bloodline and all. As far as I'm aware, they are not in any bit related to the Anoa'i family or the tangential, sideline of the Anoa'i family. Maybe I'm wrong about that. If I am, let me know in the comments. But I think that they are just, Tongan wrestlers. But hey, maybe they got attention from that. Maybe WWE was looking into different people that are Samoan in some fashion, or the people that are outside of that kind of space, and maybe they just happen to be at this time frame. I don't know, but I haven't heard anything in particular about their skill levels or anything other than some people, when that original story had came out a few weeks ago, I had seen some reactions of like, oh wow, I really hope that they go to WWE. So at least some people like them out there, and they seem like they would be an interesting tag team. But unless something actually happens where we get some confirmation that they get signed or something, got to take it all with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the fact that they're at the Performance Center, WWE doesn't invite people there that they aren't allowing there. It's as self-explanatory as it can get. You're not allowed to get into that building unless they let you. So if they were in there, that means that WWE at least was partially interested in checking them out for some kind of a tryout, or maybe a signing to come if that ends up going well. So we might end up having a story coming up in the future where we end up saying that they are signed and that they pop up in NXT or something. Keep an eye on that for sure. But as far as other people that might be joining the company, it seems Dave Meltzer has a new update when it comes to the Motor City Machine Guns. And that was a little bit surprising for me to hear when we were getting started and just brainstorming some hot tags, because I thought that they were pretty much locked to go to All Elite Wrestling. Although it's been a few months since that had happened, and maybe that's a good enough sign that the talks fell through or something. I would kind of be hoping in some way that would happen with Camille. And, she hasn't been... how long has it been since Camille got signed? At least 4 months, right?
It's been a while, yeah.
Maybe like 7 months by now. She might have been at the beginning of the year or even the end of last year or so. It's been a while for Camille, and she is still not made a single appearance for AEW. Megan Bayne hasn't either.
Well, Megan Bayne isn't signed with AEW at the moment.
I thought that she had been confirmed to be signed.
She was signed during her time at Stardom, but her contract expired, and now she's currently in negotiations with AEW.
So they signed her and did nothing to the point that the contract expired already?
Well, they signed her ages ago. Like she was signed like really early on in AEW's life, like pretty much a year or so in.
Oh, really?
But then she suffered an injury, which meant that she didn't get started. And then when she did come back, she went out to Stardom and other places. They basically let her go to other places and work the independent circuit rather than bring her in, because probably she was pretty green at that point in time, and she's developed a lot since then. Like I've seen some of her work in Stardom, and she was very, like, she has a strong presence to her. But yeah, I don't know what the whole situation is, but as far as I'm aware right now, she's not signed to any company.
Huh.
But it's likely that if she does sign someone, it will probably be back to AEW.
So I don't know how, of course, the whole Motor City Machine Guns thing went, but that's pretty interesting to be in that kind of position too, where it seemed like they were a lock. At least from my perspective, it seemed like that was going to be the case. And I even still have them down as my prediction for who was going to beat the Young Bucks for the tag titles. So I'm going to have to change that if they are going to WWE, as Meltzer says. But I'm kind of 50-50 about this. Motor City Machine Guns is a team that I've seen, some matches, because they've been around forever. So, of course, I've seen some matches of theirs. I can't say that I'm like, the authoritarian on them by any means, but Alex Shelley has always been a fun talent to watch. Chris Sabin's always been a fun talent to watch. I really wish that they would have been signed to NXT back in the Black and Gold era, because I think that they would have really excelled there and been just, having bangers of matches with DIY and with Authors of Pain and TMDK and all these other teams that were like really having these great, the peak of that tag team division back then. Now, I mean, they're towards the latter end of their careers, but they're still able to go. If they go to WWE, I'm hoping they just bypass NXT. They are well past the point of needing to be in that system. And I just want to see them on Raw or SmackDown, go straight to that, and start having some of those matches with those teams. How do you feel about Motor City Machine Guns in WWE? Or do you think that they should be better off in AEW?
It's difficult to say. Like, I don't really care too much about where they would be quote unquote better off being. Like, at the end of the day, it's their choice about which one they want to go to, and if WWE have made the better offer as Meltzer is reporting, then they should go with WWE. They are both in their early 40s now, so they're very much in the tail end of their career. They can still, they're probably, in terms of like their minds for wrestling, they're probably as good, if not better, than they've ever been. But obviously, the body may not catch up as well. But they can still, as I said, they can still definitely go. They can produce some good matches. Yeah, I would prefer, if that was the case, for them to go just straight to the main roster, because you can have some good matches straight away. But I very much expect that they will go to NXT. Especially because NXT is doing the whole crossover with TNA right now, and they're so like closely associated with TNA's history that feels like the logical step to have them go there. Not say that they would do much like crossover stuff with TNA, because I don't know why they would necessarily like just want to join WWE. Well, to get paid, obviously, but then to just immediately go straight back to TNA.
It'd be weird.
NXT. Yeah, it'd be a little bit odd, but it feels like.
Officially becomes like, we got a new crossover thing, and they're here. It is the NXT stars. Whoa, we never seen this before.
So, but I think that there's a good possibility they would just go to NXT to be like veterans, helping the up and coming tag teams in NXT to help their development rather than go up to the main roster. I mean, maybe like they would stay in NXT for like a year or so, win the tag titles, be there for a little while, and then go up to the main roster, and you could have some good matches beyond that point. But I kind of see it more as a like late stage tag team there to be like player coach almost, in a way. Maybe not like, specifically trainers, but to be people that the younger wrestlers can learn from, because they have such a wide history and experience that the younger wrestlers could pluck knowledge from. Kind
of like how the OC has been hanging around more in NXT lately than they've been doing on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Gallows and Anderson, way past the point that they're not going to win the main tag titles, and they're working with OTM, and they might be training people behind the scenes for all we know. But yeah, like the in-ring training more than anything else.
I hope not. If NXT is trying to produce some wrestlers that want to like go bell to bell, I mean, like as I say, that they're the best people to teach you like to look like you're doing something when you're actually not. That's kind of. But yeah, so they'll probably do good. I mean, like to be fair, if there's one match that I would want to see, not that I watch WWE that much anymore, but if there's one match that I would want to see from a tag team thing, if most Machine Guns do go to WWE, it'd be them against Axiom and Nathan Fraser.
I mean, that'd be, flipping around, going crazy. I'd be on that.
Yeah, so that would be, and then obviously you've got things like DIY, and when the Usos eventually get back together, that'd be like I'm sure for many people that'd be kind of like a seminal match of like the team of, well, one of the teams of TNA versus one of the teams of WWE. So
you got like, the Creed brothers. I'm sure they can have a hell of a match with them. There's teams that I would think you wouldn't necessarily think of immediately, but that they could work really well with. I could see them working well with A-Town Down Under, having a good match with them.
Well, A-Town Down Under won't be around probably by the time that they come into the company. So.
Maybe not. They were kind of in a little bit of a split going on, but
there's plenty of opportunities for them. As I say, like I would have liked to see them go to AEW, because obviously I watch AEW, and it's to me, like I can understand if AEW have given them like offered a certain amount, but not so high, because they are still going to be a nostalgia act. I think it works perfectly for NXT because. Or like WWE with a lot of younger talent, because there's people that you can learn from and have matches with, and go around the circuit with other people and like wrestle them like 3 or 4 nights a week and learn stuff every time that you're in the ring with them. Whereas like AEW would be more just for the not smarky like pop about this quite legendary tag team for hardcore wrestling fans is here, and they will have a big match with the Bucks, and they'll do the other stuff. But yeah, realistically, it probably makes more sense for them to go to WWE.
Of course, we won't know for sure
until they actually sign, yeah.
Until they sign and they pop up somewhere, because every time that it seems like that's the case, it's, it could pop up with a new story and then that completely changes things. But
yeah.
There's, in AEW and in WWE, there's plenty tag teams I'd love to see them up against. Lucha Bros, that'd be a hell of a match. Same time, you put them in the ring with people from LWO, and I think that they could work really well together, or the Street Profits or something. So I'm down for Motor City Machine Guns being on either roster, and it's funny because it's like your tendency goes to AEW for certain people because it's like, okay, well, they definitely would fit better there. And then other people, it's like, all right, that's a WWE guy. They need to go there or something. And I think that they could work with either of them. So I think it's kind of a win-win. Whichever roster gets them, they're going to have some good matches. So that's cool. I have a couple other things that are like on the main topic things. Like we'll talk about AEW Dynamite 250, mostly about MJF. But we're going to probably end this episode with Slammiversary stuff. But in the meantime, we have a couple little other random smaller topics and stuff to talk about. I'm going to mention as far as very quickly, just to keep everybody posted if they're unaware of this. Great American Bash is now 2 weeks long. It's not going to be just that August episode. It is also going to be the week prior to that on television. So the August 6th and July 30th edition of NXT will be both on Sci-Fi, and they will be dubbed Great American Bash. We don't really know a whole lot of matches that are scheduled for that, although it seems like Roxanne Perez against Thea Hale is going to be one of those on one of those nights, but they didn't specify like when that is actually going to happen. And they're setting up a couple other things here and there. We got like some more storylines between some of the Obafemi going through people in the North American title scene. We got a lot more when it comes to Gallus and the Rascals and all, although they already did that match, so I don't think that that's something they can really revisit now and go back to. But we'll talk about that when it comes to that time. But quick heads up on that. Great American Bash now 2 weeks long, both of them on Sci-Fi because of the Olympics. And if we don't think of something else and we end up having the time, and if I end up having the motivation and the energy, I was trying to think of something we could do for our main event for next week. And since the Olympics are starting, I was thinking maybe trying to do something based off of that. I don't know exactly what, because really the only Olympic things I can think of when it comes to wrestling is Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, Chad Gable, Gable Steveson, that new girl, Tyra May Steele, I think is her name in NXT, which I don't know anything about really. So I don't know, maybe we're going to try to figure out something. We could do like the Olympic Games of wrestling and try to figure out who would be like the best to do certain sports, or I don't know. If you have any suggestions, drop in the comments below. You said that there is Noah has started their, have they started their N1, or is this something that's actually even finished up? It's brand new news to me on this front.
So Noah's N1 victory tournament doesn't start until August 4th. But they announced the participants a couple of last weekend, so we know who's in it now. Obviously, most names I'm not familiar with because I don't watch a load of Noah, but I thought it was worth bringing to attention because there were 2 NXT names in it, which is just another indication of this furthering relationship between. It is interesting because there's a New Japan guy in it. There's also a Dragon Gate guy in it, and there's 2 NXT guys in it. So it's kind of bringing a lot of different worlds together in this one.
Huh.
So the 2 NXT names, one of them in Block A and one of them in Block B. So it's the same sort of lineup as a G1. It's round robin tournament. The only difference being that, well, outside of New Japan's one, which has gotten super complicated with its like. There are 2 like winners of the blocks, but then second and third place face each other again, and for the right to face first place again, and those 2 people face in the final. Rather than it be overcomplicated, they stick to thing of, okay, whoever wins both blocks face each other in the final, and they win the cup.
That's so much easier.
Yeah, that's how New Japan used to do it, and then they decided to overcomplicate it because they're desperate to try and make more shows with more appealing cards because they can't draw enough crowds nowadays. But yeah, so Block A will be include Josh Briggs, and Block B is including Tavion Heights. So they're the two representatives. So if you don't see them on NXT for a while through the month, because it's from August 4th till September 1st. So if you don't see them throughout the month of August in NXT, that's why they're busy over in Japan.
Which is interesting because they are both involved in some pretty like heavy things going on right now. Heavy in some way. Like Tavion Heights just got recruited to No Quarter Catch Crew, and they are currently doing a story where I know that you've been like tapped out, especially to NXT lately, but do you know the whole thing with Damon Kemp being released and getting written off TV?
Oh yeah, I know that he's gone.
Well, they did a whole thing with Ren Sinclair witnessed them shoving him into a trunk. And now this week she's like, I'm going to tell everybody what you did unless you let me join the group. So it's like Tavion Heights is supposed to be on TV for this next little, you know.
So she's, I guess, right. So she's so desperate to join No Quarter Catch Crew, which, correct me if I'm wrong, outside the Heritage Cup have won the square root of fuck all.
Yes.
And she's willing to cover up murder to do that.
She's like, hey, you murdered one of your teammates. That's what I want to be a part of. And I'm the only witness to it, despite the fact that the cameras were there. Because that's pro wrestling.
Yeah. But
she's going to, as she said, she's going to wrestle her way into their cold little hearts and into the group.
Wow.
Because she started like play grappling with Miles Bourne, who started to act like a little kid that was getting like picked on by the cute girl or something. Like,
are they one of the like 50 dozen couples that are in NXT right now? It's like fucking Love Island there.
You know, I don't know for sure. Maybe they are. Maybe that's why that's happening. Because it does seem like sometimes that ends up being the case where it's just like, I mean, people, if you want to make sure that you get attacked, you hang out in the parking lot. If you want to end up getting a fiance, you go to NXT and hang out in the Performance Center because everybody's dating it. Apparently, Carmelo Hayes is dating Kehlani Jordan now.
Yeah. I mean, like, you go there, you get a fiance, and then you take someone else's fiance, and they get your fiance instead. That's kind of how it works right now. Because, like, I had no idea. Again, I just saw people sharing some of this stuff on Twitter, so I just got vaguely interested. I had no idea that Bron Breakker and Cora Jade split up, and they're already with two other people in NXT. So it's
Cora's with, I guess, some football player.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe she's not. Maybe she's dating somebody else now.
Bron's with Izzy Dame.
Izzy Dame, yeah. Which that became a story over this past week of like a happy birthday thing or something where everybody's like they're fucking now. And it's congrats to all the happy couples. Maybe Ren Sinclair, Miles Bourne might be on it for sure. At least that's the implication that I got was it was kind of flirty, but maybe it's not.
Oh yeah, well they're a fucking off screen or they're fucking on screen. That's kind of the NXT mantra, isn't it?
Sometimes both. But yeah, Tavion Heights is put up for that quite a bit. Josh Briggs is currently in like a reheated feud with Brooks Jensen. They're gonna have a no disqualification match next week. So,
I mean,
maybe that writes him off.
Yeah, that could even write him off. I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't see the harm in. Why don't you just say they've gone over to Japan and show footage of their matches on NXT? Yeah, like just like a short minute 30 long video package showing the one or two matches they've had that week, whether they win or lose or whatever, just to see how it goes. Neither of them are going to win their blocks because they're not Noah guys, so they are going to lose matches. But that's like to be expected.
Why not do that? Why not just be like, okay, no Quarter Catch Crew is hanging around, and Charlie Dempsey says, I want you to go pop over to New Japan and win this tournament, prove yourself for the No Quarter Catch Crew, and then Tavion Heights like, all right, peace out, I'll see you in a month or something.
Yeah, but
Do you have anybody that you think will win based off of this tournament?
So as I say, I'm not super familiar with a lot of them. No, I know some of them. Like I know, so Kaito Kimi is the champion of Noah right now. He was in the G1 Climax last year, and he's kind of like there's been like the younger ace of Noah for a few years now, and he's got the championship at the moment. So it's unlikely he'll win because the champions rarely win these things anyway, because you're trying to set up a challenger as the goal of this. So if it's in Group A, the one that's I would say has the biggest chance, probably either Go Shiozaki or Masa Kitamiya, because they're like the two bigger names in that block. And then Block B, I'd go either Kano or El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., just because he was champion fairly recently, so they might try and use that to get him into another championship opportunity. But yeah, as I say, that's just a very, very top line understanding of this thing, because like they might try and push someone that might try and use this opportunity to push someone who's not been in the main event. I've just gone with people that I know have either been champion or have fought for the championship in recent years. They might decide to use this opportunity to elevate someone else to that level. It definitely might be Briggs or Heights, yeah. I
don't know any of these people in the slightest bit. So it's this is one of those things where even flying blind, I got nothing. I've not even heard of most of these names, let alone be able to tell you like what they look like, what their moves are, what their history is, anything on that front. So if anybody knows more, by all means, drop a comment. Let us know what we're missing out on here. But that's when it comes down around that's September 1st, you said, I think.
It starts August 4th and then finishes September 1st.
Yeah. So if we're still doing these podcasts around then, and we are aware of what happens with that, we'll come back and touch base on that. Before we get into the TV talk and the Slammiversary thing, any other kind of random free-for-all discussions you can think of?
Well, if we talk about the N1, we might as well talk about like the G1 Climax starts this weekend. So,
any updates on who you think might end up winning that?
All right, so updates in terms of the two people that won the qualifying tournaments to get into it were the people I kind of hoped would do it, which is Bolton Oleg got into the B block and Callum Newman got into the A block. So they're kind of like the two young upstarts that are in each of their blocks. Apparently Jake Lee, who I thought was going to be like an outsider coming in from Noah, has actually left Noah and joined New Japan Pro Wrestling. So he's now the new leader of the Bullet Club War Dogs. So that's an interesting development. So that shoots up his prospects of winning significantly, because I don't want him to win, because by all accounts, I haven't watched a lot of him, but by all accounts, people that do watch more Japanese wrestling than I do, he sucks. so I'm not looking forward to particularly his match with Evil in Block A. I think that could be the death of the wrestling universe. But so I mean, my heart is still obviously going to Zack Sabre Jr. winning. I just think it makes the most sense. But when you actually look at the blocks, it just doesn't make like practical sense in the fact that he's already in the same block with Tetsuya Naito. So he's probably going to have to beat Tetsuya Naito already to win it, and then he'd have to face Naito again at like Wrestle Kingdom. That feels like having too many matches with him beforehand. So, like, the usual thing would be that in the block opposite the champions block would be the winner. Out of those ones, though, it just looks like a significantly weaker group of people. So I wouldn't really think any of them are like the right person. The only one really is Yota Tsuji, but I don't think he should be fighting Naito again. He fought Naito earlier this year for the championship and lost, so I don't think he should be doing it again. Like all of the potential like good winners in my mind, which are Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi, Zack Sabre Jr. It's kind of like those three would be my main choices. They're all in the A block alongside Naito, so it doesn't really make clear sense to me why it's structured that way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would be super pumped if Takeshita won it, because Takeshita's awesome, and it would be a great match in the final, or a great match with Naito at Wrestle Kingdom if they went that route. So if they do want to do that, I heard it like they did their like little press conference thing earlier today, and Takeshita's going by the name of the what's it doing? He's calling it the it was something of Strong Style. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's going to be like the if it was something like Savior or Strong Style, it wasn't exactly that, but he's kind of promoting himself as like the heir apparent to like the concept, that style of wrestling, even though he's not even signed to New Japan. He's not even signed to, like, that's not even the Japanese promotion that he is signed to. He's signed to DDT instead, so it's highly unlikely that he'll win. He might make it to the knockout phases, but he won't. He's not going to win. So again, my heart is saying Zack Sabre Jr. My head, knowing that they almost never. I mean, there's only been one non-Japanese person that's ever won the G1 in the actual G1 format, which is Kenny Omega. So, like, it seems unlikely they do it for Zack Sabre Jr., but you know, it's not the strangest thing that could happen. He's certainly a guy that they can trust. But then, in which case, I'll probably go with Shota Umino. If they decide to go, a Japanese guy has to win, then Shota Umino would be my choice.
I still have no real means to tap into that, so I'm still kind of just hoping maybe there's like something I'm unaware of that, you know, people go nuts over. But I'm
looking forward to it. It should be a fun tournament. I'm definitely checking it out this weekend at the very least. But and I'll try and follow along as well as I can. But it's interesting because even though it doesn't have the star power of recent years, because you know they've lost guys like Okada and Jay White and Ospreay in recent years, it actually makes it somewhat more interesting because it's a lot of people that were below them on the card and now come together, so it's a bit more open-ended about which one wins. So it's a bit more unpredictable than in previous years.
Which that in and of itself could be a lot of fun if you're just like, all right, what's going to end up happening with that? Although with my level of distance when it comes to this roster, I don't look at any of those options and think like, oh man, there's going to be Naito against blank and I can't wait to see it, kind of a thing, you know? But maybe I'll change my opinion when it comes to January. I'm more interested in the show that's going to happen after that at this point with a quick crossover of Dynasty.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
So let's get into this TV talk and kind of round things out. When it comes to, of course, some of the TV talk things, we're going to keep that for talking about SummerSlam and All In and all that. We're going to get like into every little nook and cranny that's happened, but there are a few things that are noteworthy to talk about that happened throughout this week. We, of course, have some matches that have been set up more for SummerSlam, like the Rhea Ripley challenge for Liv Morgan. Again, we're going to save that for SummerSlam. They seem to be heading more towards that babyface turn for Damian Priest. I think it's the right direction to go. I see a lot of people reacting to that with confusion, as if they didn't see that coming. It's been like, well, he's going up against Gunther. Of course, Gunther is going to be the heel in that match more so. But the thing that I took as my biggest takeaway from Raw, at least, was that they do still want to commit to Braun Breaker against Sami Zayn, but they're just throwing Ilya Dragunov in the middle of that. And I'm currently expecting it to be a triple threat at SummerSlam. If they go in that direction, I still think Braun Breaker needs to win that title, but I think that he should just beat Sami Zayn. I don't think that he should beat Dragunov, so I think that might be a mistake. Or if they were just putting Dragunov in here to do something in the meantime, then I go back to the idea that they shouldn't have had that happen at Money in the Bank. He should have just beat Sami Zayn at Money in the Bank. And a little bit hesitant to trust where they're going here, even though they've been doing some good stuff outside of that. Sheamus got a new theme, though. That sucks. Well, the theme's not necessarily bad. It's just, why go back to the old one just to change it again? Have you heard it?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. Well, it's like every Death Rebel theme is that you have to have them say something that is equivalent to their own name at the start of it, and then just play generic music afterwards.
It's so bad. Like, why are they not realizing that that's?
Well, they clearly think that
nobody likes this.
Well, they clearly think that that's good. That I think that. Clearly, and let's say just that the kind of Twitter or IWC bubble, as it were, is not reflective of what. Well, their target audience is kids, realistically. So maybe them hearing the first line and doing that is a good way for them to recognise who the wrestlers are.
It's a shame because it's like, it's so obvious what the answer is in a way that I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's just a fact. It's a good idea to have like one thing at the beginning that people can react to immediately, but then make the song decent too. Like, what? If it's a good enough theme, they don't need to have them say something at the beginning of it because people are going to react anyway. Like the glass shattering for Stone Cold. He doesn't have to go, give me a hell yeah, and then da 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 da. Like, no, or like Bret Hart has that guitar riff. He doesn't just go, I'm the best there is, the best there is, the best there. Yeah, and everybody that's had a great theme for the most part has had either an iconic enough phrase where it's worked and then the theme has been good, like The Rock, you know, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? And then he has a theme that works really well. Or they just have a good theme. I don't think there's a single person out there that has one of these themes that Def Rebel's been doing where it's just, you know, I'm trying to think of like somebody on the roster that has one of these now because they're all so bland that I can't even say what they are. Like I couldn't tell you what Shayna Baszler's theme is at all. I don't even know what it starts off with. And I couldn't tell you the differences between the Judgment Day's teams. Because whenever they come out, I'm like, all right, well, who's coming out this? Oh, okay, so this is the Finn Balor one. But they all sound so similar that I can't tell. This is my brutality. Okay, I know Rhea Ripley's coming out. Why get rid of the Sheamus one and go with another generic ass theme? Nobody's going to be able to hum this thing.
Yeah, that's like that seems to just be the way they operate right now.
It's awful. I don't know what philosophy they have that they're not understanding, but it's a downgrade. As far as NXT is concerned, again, we already mentioned a couple of these things a little bit here and there. I guess Lola Vice is a babyface now. Sure, why not? And she's just randomly teaming up with Carmen Petrovic and Sol Ruca because they're two other babyfaces, so they help her out and all. Roxanne had cut another promo where she mentioned Julia and Stephanie Vaquer. Is it Vaquer or is it Vaquer? Like Vaquer or Vaquer or Vaquer? I keep hearing 1,000 different ways to pronounce this thing.
Yeah, we'll wait until Booker T gets his hands on it, but it's
just gonna be oh yeah.
Vaquer. I think it's Vaquer.
I've heard Vaquer more than anything else, but then some people I'm hearing are just like Vaquer. I'm like, but okay, maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, that may be like just my like kind of like British or the American pronunciation of it, whereas in Mexico or Spanish, they'd say it's like have a different inflection on it. But yeah, as I say, like I mean, she's indicative of a good signing, and Roxanne mentioned that it's a sign that that's probably potentially two different directions they can go forward in. I do think that it's quite funny though that again seeing online people talk about Julia versus Stephanie Vaquer, that's going to be a great match. And that match actually happened, and it's probably one of the worst matches they've both had in their careers.
Really?
It was awful. Like they just couldn't get on the same page at all. But to be fair, it was kind of hindered by the fact that that was the match that Vaquer won the New Japan Strong title from Julia. And I think she was probably pissed that she was losing the title, and so she kind of sandbagged the match a little bit.
Huh.
So
one match that I've seen of Stephanie Vaquer, whatever, I liked it. I like her, so I'm down for her to be a part of it. Julia, the little bits that I've seen, you know, she seems great too. And it's funny though that Roxanne's just kind of like, my next opponent is Thea Hale, but everybody's more concerned about these two other people. Anyway, Great American Bash, Thea Hale's going to lose. It's like, poor Thea, man. You know, but they broadcast that, you know, a mile away. Seems like Wendy Chu and Tatum Paxley are closer to becoming a tag team. No tag team name for them yet, but that That's a thing to keep an eye on too. We already mentioned the Ren Sinclair thing. I liked this week that they did this thing where people are just asking each other for advice. Like Charlie Dempsey had asked Tony D'Angelo how to deal with the Ren Sinclair thing and how to basically whack somebody after you whack somebody, and they witness it. And then like Trick Williams was calling up Ilya Dragunov to be like, so what do you do when you lose the NXT title and all? It's just a nice little bit of continuity. Weird continuity though when it comes to Ora Mensah. He keeps going after Ethan Page, yet for some reason, out of all the things to book him for next week, he's going up against Ashanti the Adonis because Ashanti wants to bang everybody in NXT. So it's couldn't have had Ashanti
join the club.
Yeah. I mean, he hit on Kendall Gray, Carly Bright, Ariana Grace, and Jakara Jackson in the span of about 45 seconds. So
at least he's thorough then.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Cedric's like, hey, can we try to get our careers back on track? And he's like, nah, I kind of got something else in mind.
More important than my dick's on track.
Yeah, it's like one of those, what are they called? Dowsing rods or whatever, where you try to find water.
Like Cedric's pointing towards titles and his just pointing to ladies.
Right, so. Yeah. As it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was a week that they had some interesting things, and then they had other things where, if you want to see one of the quickest and most meaningless segments that they've had throughout this entire year, there was about a 12-second maybe long thing where Eddie Thorpe was playing a makeshift DJ set, which was essentially, we've got lighting and we've got a TV screen and your DJ equipment in like the back of one of our production things maybe, and a couple people pretending that they're dancing at a club, and Lexus King immediately screws it up and they brawl, and then they're like, yeah, they're having a match next week. It was one of the laziest things I've ever seen them do. But
having seen like what's happened over the past, like, because he's been signed with the company nearly a year now, are you willing to give up now on Lexus King? I'm
not willing to give up, but I'm willing to admit this isn't going well.
Are you willing to admit that they might have given up on Lexus King?
Oh, yeah. They might have given up on him. I don't understand why, because I still think that he's got more to offer, but they don't seem to be interested in doing anything with him whatsoever. I don't understand why they even bothered to sign him if that's the case, because all he's been doing is been feuding with people like Dante Chen and all, and that's not the sign of like, wow, what a future, what a champion in the making.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put it this way: like, if Page comes in like a month into the company, he's already world champion.
Yeah, he fights for the title in his first match, and then his third match or so afterward, fourth match, he wins the title. Whereas King's like, I'm gonna feud with Von Wagner, and then you're gonna release Von Wagner.
Well, at least he's not getting released. That's the beneficial side of it. In that regard,
it's better than nothing. Yeah.
Eventually, he'll be on the wrong side of that match.
Probably so. And I mean, the way that things have been going, it might not be the furthest thing from what happens.
I'm sure MLW are waiting with open arms.
So then let's talk about the AEW Dynamite 250 special, which didn't have a whole lot of matches to it, and that's partially because the first match went 59 minutes and 58 seconds, where MJF won the international title from Will Ospreay. I didn't see the full match. I was kind of, bouncing around doing a bunch of other things, but hell of a match from what I did see. And I would say I'd be opposed to Ospreay losing this international title so relatively quickly. I think he held it for like 50 days or so. But at the same time, it's just a mid-card title, and he's way past that point already. So give MJF something to do. He's probably not going to win that world title anytime soon. It gives the opportunity for Daniel Garcia to beat MJF and win that championship, maybe even at All In, maybe at All Out, depending on what they want to do. I think that there might be something with this kind of little, not even want to say if it's like necessarily the rumor mill, but people suggesting Will Ospreay versus Ricochet could happen at All In, and then Daniel Garcia and MJF could be for the international title or so. Overall, I like this idea though. MJF, your new international champion. He wins by the Dynamite Diamond ring. He's full back to, that heel mode. So that's what's going to be happening. And Ospreay is open to be able to challenge for other things in the future. Hell of a match too. So thumbs up.
Yeah, I thought the match was excellent. Like, I think that it's. I mean, I'm sick of all the discourse surrounding it because, like, there's almost in equal measure, there are tons of people that are overrating the match, and there's tons of people saying it was awful because it just went on saying that it went on way too long. It's like, that's like there are bits of it that dragged. I don't think that it needed all certain bits. I don't think you needed to do the whole part of like Ospreay trying to get his arm back in his socket after saying that he dislocated it during the match. I don't think you needed to go that far. But, for an hour-long match, they did a really, really good job. I thought they kept up the energy pretty well. There's the fun moment of the kid, that young girl attacking MJF. I mean, if I had like nitpicks as well beyond the arm thing, I'd say I'm a little bit disappointed that MJF's reverted back to old MJF. Don't get me wrong, that's classic MJF, and it's very, very good. But like, kind of negates a lot of the evolution of his character in the last year and a bit.
It's very clearly like, I want to just do that again, or we have nothing else in mind, so let's do that again, even if it's not necessarily. I thought he'd be a bit more like, just be a bit more violent, like he was in the match with Rouge. Like, still be that, but just be a heel. But he's clearly just like embracing what his old thing was, which is fine because that was when he was most over and most investable as a character. So it's not the end of the world of him doing that. It just kind of negates a bit of evolution. But I also really like the fact that it had a finish. Like, they did finish at 59 minutes 58 seconds because it means that next time they do go to, it looks like they are going the hour, because you can kind of tell at a certain point in a match that this is going to go, this is going for a draw. But now they've done that where if it's 52 minutes, it's it's highly unlikely you're just going to end it at 53.
Yeah. But now they've done that. Now they have this finish at the end. Now you always have that little doubt in your mind, like, they're clearly going for draw, or are they? That kind of. So I like the fact they've added that wrinkle to it as well. The result is, I was a bit surprised by it, but I think it can work. My expectation for All In is that I think you are going to get Ospreay versus Ricochet, which I think makes all the sense in the world. Just have that first match happen, and also like, I think with that match, it's not clear cut that Ricochet would have to win, even if it was his debut. You can just have them just have an awesome match and just end in a like Ospreay gets the victory, and then that can launch a little bit of a mini feud between them, or just get Ospreay or get Ricochet through the door. But I think that they're going to do MJF versus Pac at All In. Because Pac has already said that he wants to go after the international title.
That is true. I forgot about that. And then they probably go back around to Garcia after that.
Well, yeah, I assume that MJF would win that match, and then Garcia would come out during the celebration, beat down MJF, and then you have their match at All Out. So you build up a hot match for All Out straight away. So yeah, I think that would be the route that I would take, and then I would have Garcia win the title at some point against MJF, and then go into the. Because my long-term vision is to go to the Continental Classic and have the Continental Championship and the International Championship merge in that tournament.
The AEW Intercontinental Championship.
I mean, why not? It has a good ring to it. I don't know why another company has not done that before. But yeah, I think that would be the kind of routes that I would take right now. But it's good to give MJF a championship as well. I'm sure there's a lot of unfinished business with Ospreay, considering the fact that he won through dastardly means. But that'll go on the back burner at least for a little while because it's got blood and guts to think about. But yeah, I thought this was a great match. I don't think it was, like, as Meltzer put it, he's rated as the greatest AEW, not match of all time, but the greatest AEW TV match of all time.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go that far.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I'd say there's at least a solid 10 matches that spring to mind that I'd put over that one. But, it's still up there in terms of just in matches in Dynamite's history. It's very, very high up there.
What if we're wrong about this whole continental and international becomes intercontinental? What if he goes, I can't do that, so I'm going to go the continental or something like that?
I don't see why we couldn't go with the Intercontinental. It's not like WWE have trademarked the term.
They can't own that kind of a phrase, and it's not like he's calling it the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Then it would be a different story.
I mean, the New Japan had a title that used to be the Intercontinental Championship, so they can do that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't think they would name it that. I think they would just name it Continental. That it would just become the Continental Championship, and the International would cease to exist.
Probably, which is like, man, that title, if that ends up happening, you should have just called it Continental from the beginning and saved yourself the effort of the All Atlantic and then the International and whatever.
I would always appreciate that championship because it gave us the greatest stuff of Orange Cassidy's time there. So for that reason alone, that title was worthwhile.
And the the AEW TBS Championship did not change hands as expected. Mercedes Moné retained over Nyla Rose. We had a champion versus champion match where Swerve Strickland ended up getting attacked by the Young Bucks and having a whole DQ finish against Okada. But we also know the Blood and Guts setup for next week, which is going to be the Acclaimed, Darby Allin, joining Swerve and Mark Briscoe against the Elite. So we were kind of mostly right about our predictions for that, which, like, I like the Acclaimed and all, but they have lost a lot of steam. They're not as... let's be honest, they're not as interesting to me right now as they were however many months ago. So I do think that's... You could have thought of two more people that would have been more interesting on that front. Bryan Danielson is involved in this whole thing. He was militantly against the Elite not that long ago, and he's got his match with Swerve, so that would have been kind of interesting. But I had gone with a couple other people here and there, and this doesn't feel like this is as good of a Blood and Guts match as we could have gotten, but I'm still looking forward to it. And it's nice to see Darby Allin pulling out a Sting. Two people doing a Sting on this episode, because Britt Baker did the unmasking of the Sting mask and all.
Yeah, I think they were both like marks for like the 250 thing, just giving a nod to Sting, just because of the importance of the show. But yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed with the babyface Blood and Guts lineup because I don't think the Acclaimed are big enough names to be in it, and I don't think their gimmick doesn't scream Blood and Guts to me.
No,
but they have the opportunity to try and prove me wrong. So if they have a good performance, then maybe that changes their fortunes and like reestablish them in a positive way in the eyes of a lot of the fans if they put in a good showing. Like I was hoping that they would have their match with the Young Bucks like a week or two ago. They would lose their title shot, and then another team would come into place, maybe like the Lucha Bros or something. I know FTR
maybe Moxley and Claudio or something.
Yeah. I mean, I know FTR are back, but because they came back on Collision, but they seem to be focused on who are they? It was the Don Callis family seemed to be the source of their attention with that one. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Like I say, it has the potential to be good. I don't think there's been a bad Blood and Guts match. I mean, your mileage may vary on the first one with like Jericho and falling off the stage and what have you, but I don't think it'll be a bad match, just maybe not the right people. I mean, the most interesting thing is the interaction between Swerve and Hangman will be the big thing for this match. That's kind of where it will live and die, isn't how those interactions go.
Anything else on Dynamite that you want to touch base on?
I can kind of agree with some people's sentiment that the Mariah May promo thing fell a little flat after how good the angle was last week.
Oh, yeah. The most interesting thing was Tony Schiavone being like, speak, bitch.
I know, some people get so angry about that, but he's like that with every heel. Like, he calls every heel either a bitch or a dick or anything like that, depending, because like he says that sort of thing about Christian Cage and MJF and people like that, so people just got upset because, like, shouldn't be calling someone a bitch, but that's kind of what she did. She kind of deserved it. But I think that she I think her cutting that promo was like a little bit of a weak follow-up. I think it was just like she was just playing up a bit too much, and the crowd chanting what because the crowd are dicks. So anyway, so it's just like, just stop saying that word, please. It's like no one cares anymore. yeah, outside of that, like, I'd say it was a good show. I mean, like, if half the show is just like one pretty excellent match happening, then you're doing a pretty good job. And the ratings were good, and apparently, like, at least rumors circulating the deal with Warner Bros. Discovery is pretty much locked up soon. So yeah, overall a successful and fun show, and looking forward to Blood and Guts next week. It's been quite a string of like important shows for AEW as they go into All In. I think I would say tone it down, but it'll almost be nice to have a string of like normal shows before All In happens.
And last hot tag that I got, at least on this list for this episode, talk a little bit about the TNA Slammiversary pay-per-view that's coming up tomorrow, or is it tonight? No, it's tomorrow.
We're so the two wrong people on this podcast to be talking about this,
but we are the two people that are here.
Yeah.
That is happening at the Verdun Auditorium in Montreal, and apparently it is the 20th Slammiversary. That makes me feel old.
It's in Montreal. Okay, which match is having the Montreal Screwjob in it?
All of them. I actually haven't even looked at the card a single bit yet. So there are 11 matches on the card if you count pre-show matches. 3 of them on the pre-show. So I'm going to get my immediate reaction as it happens while I read this. Again, keep in mind, for anybody that's unaware and maybe brand new to this podcast, I have not watched a full episode of TNA Wrestling since prior to when Scott Steiner was beating up Josh Matthews. That goes to show you how long it's been since I've done that. But, with this TNA and NXT thing, it's been something a little bit more on my attention. So I've been paying a closer eye to a lot of this. It's still not enough to be able to really give you context too much, but it's Smark moment. What are we doing? So the 3 pre-show matches, there was a 4-way. One is Giselle Shaw, Fabi Apache. That name sounds familiar. Fabi Apache? I don't remember for sure. Tasha Steeles and Zaya Brookside. Okay, so I know of all these names. I've seen, of course, Zaya Brookside the most, more than anybody else. Doesn't seem like it's necessarily for anything, but sure. Random thing, I'll go Brookside.
Yeah, it's difficult to tell. I mean, they're all signed with it. I imagine there'll be some sort of championship implications for it. I'll go with Fabi Apache wins.
There's Kushida against Jonathan Gresham on the pre-show. That could probably be a really fun match. I'm probably still not going to watch it, but I'll go Gresham.
Why not? Yeah, I'll just go Kushida then, not just to be different, but just to. They don't seem to be like the last thing I saw of Kushida. I think he lost a match. I can't remember which one it was, but I don't think they're doing anything. Well, they're clearly not doing anything major with either of them. They're both on the pre-show, so I'll just go Kushida then.
And then there's Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich defending the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles against Danny Luna and Jody Threat, otherwise known as Spitfire. My general rule of thumb, based off of what I've seen from other things, I haven't calculated the statistics for this because there's no way I was going to do that, but it seems almost any time that I look at a TNA pay-per-view, almost all of the belts change hands. So I'm just going to go with the idea that this Spitfire team wins.
Yeah, I think Spitfire are if I'm correct, are the former champions. Yeah, because they were the champions at the previous pay-per-view. And they actually retained it against Decay. So they lost it in the meantime, probably the next episode of Impact or one of their other, like, their special shows that aren't technically pay-per-views. So yeah, I think there's a good chance they win it back. So yeah, I'll say they win, because I think this could be the show where the system starts to like fall apart a bit.
Then we got our like main card. There's the Rascals. Those 3 had reunited recently on NXT, going up against No Quarter Catch Crew. Charlie Dempsey, Miles Bourne, and Tavion Heights. So look at that. You're getting mostly WWE people on this thing in a 6-man tag team match. And given the situation between how much they put focus on the Rascals and made that such a big deal and all, and how No Quarter Catch Crew are mostly being used as like comedic things right now, unless Ren Sinclair comes out and does something, which I highly doubt is going to be the case, I'm going to go with the Rascals beating No Quarter Catch Crew.
Yeah, I'd say the Rascals would get the victory here because they are the home group, and I'm sure there'll be a good like feeling of having these three teaming back up together. I know they teamed together this week on NXT, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, they beat Gallus.
Okay, yeah, so I'd see that happening again. I don't think that there's any real need to have the Core Catch Crew win. Might change the habit of a lifetime.
Jake something against Mike Santana. Couldn't tell you the slightest bit about that. I'll go Mike Santana.
Yeah, I'd say I don't follow it enough to know one way. I'll go Santana as well because he seems to be somewhat of a big deal there. But Jake something seems to be a guy that, impresses in matches but loses not more often than not. So,
since I know so little about Jake something, and by so little I mean I couldn't even tell you what he looks like, the only thing that ever pops into my mind, ever, and I mean ever, when it comes to seeing his name on something, is, oh man, if I ever ended up getting him on some kind of a mock draft thing, I would totally book him against who? And it would just be something against who. And who wins that? Someone. AJ Francis, otherwise known as Top Dollar, otherwise known as the TNA Digital Media Champion, is going up against PCO. It's also for the Canadian International Heavyweight Championship,
which also belongs to AJ Francis.
So that's a belt.
So that's a title belt. So the story that they're telling for this one is that this was a belt that was deactivated in 1987, and AJ Francis has revived it with the explanation that he bought the rights to the title, and so he's the owner of the title, and he declared himself the champion of it. So he is the champion.
Do you know if there's any like truth to that?
No, it's not. It's just the fact that PCO's Canadian.
Because they would have to. Who had this belt beforehand?
Abdullah the Butcher was the last holder of it, but
company-wise.
Loot International.
I mean, they could have just bought it.
Well, Loot International went defunct in 1987, so yeah. Well, they clearly have the TNA have bought the rights to the belt.
Yeah,
but AJ Francis probably hasn't. So.
No, probably not. I mean, I don't think this is like an FTW thing with Taz.
No. But I don't think it's going to be a title that's long for this world. Let's put it that way. I don't think it's going to be. Oh, this is going to be a ongoing title in TNA. But I think they've just done it because it's in Canada. PCO's from. I think PCO's from Montreal, or he's from Quebec. So he is like the hometown guy on this card. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins. He beats AJ Francis and gets that title.
Yeah, why not?
I know the big thing they've been doing with PCO is that he's in like a romance angle with Steph DeLanda right now, so maybe she gets involved to help him win.
From the little bit that has just been talked about on here, I'm already rooting for PCO because why not just give it to him? He can hold this Canadian belt. The digital media thing, whatever, is what it is. But yeah, give it to him. Give it to PCO. I'll root for him. You got the Systems, Brian Myers against and Eddie Edwards against Ace Austin and Chris Bay for the TNA World Tag Team titles. Despite the fact that I just said that I think that you have title changes all the time, and the fact that you were saying that you think that the system's going to fall apart, I'll stick with them retaining the titles.
I'll go with the titles changing hands. As I say, I think this is going to be I think I'm trying to make this Slammiversary a big deal by having like at least the start point of the system's demise, and part of that would be them losing the tag titles here to ABC.
Say ABC and PCO, and there's JDC against Broken Matt Hardy. Who's JDC?
Fandango.
So where's JDC come from? What's that?
His ring name is Johnny Dango Curtis.
Oh, so he's going to Johnny Curtis, but he's starring Dango. You know what? That's not that bad. Okay. Just for that, I want him to win.
I mean, I'm happy for Matt Hardy to lose every match that he has now for the rest of his career, pretty much. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's having the time of his life now, like doing this stuff instead. But yeah, I think he'll beat Dango.
And then there's Mustafa Ali defending the X Division Championship against Speedball Mike Bailey. Trent Sevens accompanying Bailey. Somebody named Campaign Singh, although it says Champagne Singh on a different thing. I guess Campaign because of the whole Mustafa Ali thing.
Yeah, that's now. Yeah, that's how the characters change. Yeah.
That's kind of. I probably would have pitched something stupid like that. If they're that invested in this, Mustafa Ali probably retains then.
So again, it's another situation where Mike Bailey is another Quebec guy. So they might go with that change then. There's an opportunity to do it, but Mustafa Ali is still on this unbeaten streak since he came back to the independent circuit and doing stuff with TNA and New Japan and what have you. So yeah, it would just depend on whether they want to go with the hometown crowd movement or utilise this opportunity to put more heat on Mustafa Ali before he does drop the title to whoever. But as I say, I don't watch TNA enough to know who they might be envisioning as the person to finally beat Ali. So it could be Mike Bailey now. Mike Bailey's my kind of, like, if I was in charge of AEW in particular, and I'd say, like, if there's someone you had to sign from the Impact roster, like, immediately, then Mike Bailey would be the guy I'd go with. So I mean, I'd be happy to see him get the victory, but yeah, why not just predict him to win? He's from Quebec, and as you say, titles usually change hands on these shows, so.
I do think that the TNA Knockouts World title is going to change hands. Jordan Grace is defending against Ash by Elegance, and Grace is just watching that clock to leave this company. I
mean, that's likely, but I think we've said that pretty much every time, and then she just re-signs with TNA. So it's hard to really tell at this point. But I mean, it's the likelihood is that she'll go to WWE and NXT soon enough, but that doesn't necessarily mean she's going as soon as this match ends. So I think that she retains the title. I don't think that they're going to give Dana Brooke the World Championship.
What makes you think that they are going to hold off on that a little bit more?
Well, because the next big show that will come up for TNA is Bound for Glory, so I imagine that'll be where they have Grace lose the title. They give her an extended reign, and then they have a drop to whoever they want to be as the next big name for the Knockouts division, which I don't know who that necessarily is right now, but I imagine I'd like to hope they have someone in mind for that role when Grace eventually does leave, and you can use their biggest pay-per-view of the year in Bound for Glory to launch them into that new that next level.
And then the main event is a 6-way elimination match for the TNA World titles. Currently on Moose, you got Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, Nick Nemeth, Frankie Kazarian, and the guy that supposedly is going to be walking away with this, according to the most recent set of rumors, Joe Hendry. He has been so popular lately, and he's, I mean, this NXT this week, he popped up in the opening match where they ended up doing the whole Vic Joseph said his name, so he appeared on commentary. Then later on, Gallus was complaining about that, so he popped back up again. And he had said on that little backstage, that backstage segment with Gallus, that he likes it in NXT and he's going to stick around for a while, and that he's the most talked about person in NXT and the answer to everything's problems, and all of these other kind of things. Joe Hendry, ride the wave, give him the belt.
So even though I've kind of mapped out the downfall of the system, I think that Moose retains the title here. I think he'll be the last person in the system still standing with the gold and be the one, the final big boss that you have to conquer. Because I think that eventually Joe Hendry will win the title, but I think he'll win it in a singles match rather than
Bound for Glory, maybe.
Either Bound for Glory or the next big show they do. I know that's the next big show, but they might do another show in the meantime. They have Joe Hendry get the victory in. But I think that that makes more sense to have, like, if it make it seem like Joe Hendry, like almost have like Joe Hendry eliminate like maybe 3 of the other guys, like to make him feel like the biggest deal, and then have Moose squash that out, and then just adds more desperation to see Hendry win the title, like win the big one finally. But I mean, I'd say I wouldn't be against the idea of Joe Hendry winning. I think that NXT has already shown its hand in terms of the subtlety hammer, in terms of the fact that like they've gone so far down to the point of, it does feel very like one note in that, like his gimmick is that if you say his name he appears, and then they've basically said, okay, that's his whole character, that's just who he is. So that's his only trait, is that you say his name and he'll show up. So I don't know, I'm a bit worried about any nuance or any sort of like depth to that character being developed any time soon. But yeah, as I say, they would not be wrong to have him win the title here, because he is the hot hand right now. I just feel like they might hold off until it's more of a one-on-one match than like a 6-way instead. But the 6-way does open the opportunity of Moose getting eliminated early, and then you just crown a new champion at the end of it. So there's multiple ways you can go about it.
Or even if you want to keep Moose looking strong, he's the one that eliminates a bunch of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he takes out Kazarian, he takes out Macklin, he takes out Nemeth, and then it's like Alexander's there with Moose and Henry, and Henry takes out Alexander and Moose or something, like, like they could play around with that. I'll go with the Joe Hendry thing, if not just because they have to realize how popular he is right now. And TNA, if nothing else, has been seemingly well over 10 years, just like go with the new thing. And Joe Hendry's not new, but it's like go with the thing that's hot,
Yeah, as I wouldn't be surprised if that's, I think it's either him or Moose. So yeah, but I'm going to go Moose retaining, at least for the time being.
Even being as distant as I am from this, I can't possibly see anything other than those two happening. I'd be really shocked if it's just like, we gave the belt to Macklin,
Well, it just shows kind of like how far the Nemeth thing has just fallen off immediately. Mm-hmm. Like, it felt like he was like the hottest hand coming into it, and he's now just like, one of the guys in that company.
Maybe he ends up winning.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Well, that is the lineup for that. That's our lineup for the hot tags for this week. As always, we want to know what you guys have to say. As I said at the beginning of this, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you think is going to happen at this pay-per-view, any of the other things we mentioned too. If there's other hot tags that you wish that we would have talked about, drop it in the comments there as well, and then we'll try to respond to that. Keep in mind that we're looking for ideas for what we could do next week for that whole Olympic thing, or something that's not based off the Olympics. Maybe that's not a good idea and we got something else in mind. I don't know. But, hit that like button on this video if you want to help us out. Stay tuned for anything else that is happening on the website or the sister website, fanboysanonymous.com. At some point, going to end up having Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 up on there. And then, of course, the other things that we talk about all the time. If you go to amangotree.com to show your support for all those different links you could find there, all my personal stuff, all the things like my Letterboxd and all, go to, hit the subscribe or follow or whatever button on whatever it is. And Rob's not here, but check out Dude Felice, but also follow what Callum's up to.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. You can check out the Power Rankings over at smark.com, my weekly article where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And while you're there, you can also check out the Fantasy League at wwefantasyleague.com. I'm currently in the lead. I managed to take over from Rob in the past couple of weeks. So check out how the points are going, which is surprising because I've not won a single pay-per-view prediction, so I've had the least ability to change my team, but it's seemingly working out for me at this point in time. But yeah, it's pretty close at the top though, and with SummerSlam coming up, there's plenty of points still get exchanged there as well, so you can check that out at wwefantasyleague.com to see all the latest point scoring and what's going on.
Okay, everybody, make sure that you hit up that Patreon or the YouTube channel membership, or both, to ensure that you get an episode next week for episode 660. And, when we come back around to whatever it is, we hope you tune in. We thank you, of course, for tuning into this episode. And adios for now, everyone. This has been another Smark Out moment. And we're being counted out.